Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. I'm excited to be joined by my good friend and travel author Karen Gershowitz today. And we're just going to jump in. I want to hear about London, where you recently went.
Yeah, I was there a couple of weeks ago and I brought along my nephew and his wife and daughter, who is not quite, almost 12 years old. And it's a place that I know really well because I lived there for several years. I had lots and lots of business in London. And at one point, I was going there every couple of months. And I still have a slew of friends in London. So it's like going home. And that was one of the reasons that I brought my nephew and his family with me. They had never been out of the country and they were a little bit nervous about it and wanted to go with me because they know that I know it really well. And I said, yeah, it's a great place to go for a first trip because same language, you understand things, you can read the signs.
Yes.
Plus, there's a lot to do, no matter what age you are. And London's a very easy city to get around. So lots of good reasons for going.
Yeah,
So
I think
it was
so too. It's a great starter if you're leaving the country for the first time destination for all of those reasons. But in light of all the recent hubbub we're hearing about travel and new requirements for Europe, were you impacted by any of those things this particular trip?
yeah, you do have to get it's called an EDA or an ADA.
Yeah, something like
And
ETIAS or something like that.
yeah, well, there's a different one for Europe and for Great Britain.
Oh,
They're
okay.
different. Um, but you can do it online. Basically, it's a money grab. I mean, it's $13. It's very simple, but you have to do it on your phone for
Oh,
some bizarre reason. You have to download their app. And so you have to do it on the app. But it's simple. I mean, the whole thing took me 10 minutes, maybe.
and how
And you can
far in advance can you do that, or
you
does
can
it?
do it, I think, up to 2 months in advance, and you have to do it at least 3 days in advance.
Okay.
So, and if you get to the airport and you don't have it, I don't think they'll let you get on the flight.
Yeah, they may not. I would think not.
So, that's a little hiccup, but it's so easy to do. It's not worth getting excited about. On the other hand, if you're flying in the US and you don't have a real ID, that's a big thing to get worried about because you're
Yeah,
not on the flight.
right,
Uh,
exactly. So share a little bit about how you chose your flights, especially in coordinating with, your nephew and the other family members.
right. Well, essentially, what I said is, look, let's take the latest flight we can take in the evening because we're flying out of New York so that we get in not at the crack of dawn. Because some people think, oh, well, I'll take a 6 o'clock flight, but then you're in at 6 in the morning. And if your flight is early, as ours was, you'd be there at 5 in the morning. What
Oh,
do at 5 in the morning?
yeah, and then you don't even have a place to leave your luggage a lot of times.
Yeah. Well, you can. I mean, the hotel, was okay, but if you're staying in an Airbnb, you're stuck. I
Oh,
mean, you're
yeah.
really stuck. We went to a hotel. I got a very good deal in a great location. We were in the Covent Garden area, which means we could walk to things, and we were a block and a half from an underground station.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that we could take the underground, and there were a lot of buses. So public transportation was really easy. And of course, one of the early things I did was I said, look, we either are going to go get Oyster cards, which is their little transit cards. You don't need that anymore. You can do it with a credit card, but you
Oh.
have to have a separate one for each individual.
Oh,
You
each
can't
person
put
needs to
three
have.
people. Right. And he didn't have three credit cards with him. So I said, okay, we're going to go to the underground station, get some Oyster cards, which you do in the machine. It's not a big deal, and it was very simple. But you have to kind of know those things in advance, and I find it hilarious because I just got off the phone with him, and he said to me, "Oh yeah, we have a friend who's going to London." So I was telling him all about how you have to get the credit card, have enough credit cards for the number of people you have, or buy the Oyster card. He said, I said, you become an expert in this.
Yes, exactly. So explain
Yeah,
a
which
little
is,
bit to people that are new. How is the Oyster card good then for all the various forms of
yeah,
transportation?
yeah.
Okay.
You can use it for the bus. You can use it on the underground or the tube, as they call it. And it's, you put in a set amount of money, and unfortunately, you have to pay like the equivalent of $6 or $7 for the card itself. But I
Okay.
figure it's a great souvenir. Yeah,
Oh
all
yeah, it
else
is a
fails, you get a
nice.
great souvenir afterwards for
Yeah,
$6.
right.
Uh, and at the end, I think you can get your money back. I just said to him, look, give me the Oyster card because I go back all the time. I'll use it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's kind of guesstimate how much you might want to put on it, but it probably
Right.
saves a ton of hassle if you have just the Oyster card that works for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, a credit card works just fine. It doesn't cost any different, but you have to have an individual credit card for each person who's traveling.
Interesting. But if you
That's
have the,
true in New York, by the way,
oh, it is
because New
too.
York
Okay.
now you can touch a credit card and then a tap thing, but you can't put two people on the same credit card.
Oh. But with the Oyster card,
Well,
you can put as many people then as you want on it.
no, you can't.
Oh, okay, not the Oyster card either.
One person.
Okay.
No, not the Oyster card either.
Okay. So
But if
each,
you're carrying two credit cards and you're three people, you have to do something else because otherwise all three of you are not going to get on.
right. And what about children then too? Then you need to, it's easier than I suppose to just get like three or four. So each person has their own Oyster card.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then talk a little bit about, I think London, in the past at least, all of their museums were free, but I don't know if that's still true. I
Most
might
of them
be,
still are.
okay.
Most of them still are. I mean, the Victoria and Albert is, Museum of Natural History is, Science Museum is. I don't know about the British Museum, but I suspect it's still free. National Gallery is free. So yeah, the museums are still free, and which is great. It really is wonderful. Going to see the changing of the guard costs nothing. The crowds were insane,
Oh, wow.
totally, completely, utterly insane. I sent them off, said, you go. I'm going to find somewhere to sit. Come back and get me because I can't stand in the middle of, well, I can't stand for very long periods of time at all.
Right.
And in the middle of a crush of people, it sounded like a really bad idea to me.
Yeah.
But they loved it. And I'll tell you a little side story here. My nephew is a fire marshal,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, and at the Stony Brook University, and he's an interesting guy. But it turns out, and I never knew this, that if you are in the military, if you are in the police or the fire, in any of those professions, they have coins that they trade with each other all over the world.
Really?
And
Oh,
so he
wow.
brought a stack of them from the university, from the fire department at the university. And when he was at Buckingham Palace for the changing of the guards, he called over one of the guards and started to give him the coin. And the guy said, no, go around the corner afterwards. We'll meet you there.
Oh, okay.
And so he got met there by the guard that he had spoken with, plus two others. They exchanged the coins, and he got one that was from Scotland Yard,
Oh, wow.
one one that was from the um, palace's private guard, and one that was a really special one. And the guy pointed out to him was a badge that they wear on their hat, and it was from Queen Elizabeth.
Oh my goodness. What
Yeah,
amazing. I'm glad you shared that for other,
yeah,
firefighter families or, like you said, law
right.
enforcement. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. And then he went around wherever they were. He figured out where the fire department was. And, and he went in and they were giving him tours and explaining things to him. And he's really into all of this. So he was having a great time. They went to the Tower of London. He got a couple of the Tower of London. I mean, it was from the special guards at the Tower of London.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he came back with like a dozen of them.
Oh my goodness, that's great.
Yeah.
That is a good little side note. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. I never knew about it, and he
Yeah.
explained it to me, and I was like, wow, that's really fast. I mean, I was really fascinated by it because apparently it's global.
Yeah. I wouldn't have known that, right? Because I yeah. But that's an
Nope.
interesting, that's a great thing to share. I love that.
Yeah. So that was his personal agenda there. I had to go do that, which I thought was great. I mean, I really, it was, it's like his thing, and he went and did all of this. And we went to a bunch of pubs, and he said, "Can we bring in, our daughter?" And I said, "Yeah, it's fine. She can't drink alcohol, but she
Right.
can certainly come in, and pub food is wonderful."
Yeah, it is.
And so they were having, so we went to a bunch of them, including a couple of really old ones,
Yeah.
that are beautiful with all the wood and the very fancy lights and
Yeah.
um, so that was really, really fun for them because it was like they had no experience with anything like a pub, you know, and I was saying, you want to do things that are really British.
Right.
Let's
Yes.
do the things that are really British, and going to a pub is one of them.
Yes.
Um,
And share a few of the other things that you think are really British that are kind of must-dos
well,
for.
well, I'll give you a must do. I said we're going on the London Eye, and the London Eye is like the biggest Ferris wheel you have ever seen. And it's got these pods that hold about 20 or 25 people,
Oh,
maybe.
wow, they hold that many people. Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't even
Yeah.
realize.
And you can stand and you walk around in them. And I had already gotten the tickets because if you get them in advance, they're cheaper.
Oh, that's
So
a good
I
tip.
got them.
Yeah.
So I got them. And we got there, and my nephew says to me, I hate heights. And I said, I do too. It's okay. You'll be fine. You really will be fine. So he's like, well, is there somewhere to sit? I said, yes, you can sit. There's a big bench in the middle. It'll be fine. And I kept saying, you'll be fine. Anyhow, we get on to it. The first minute he's sitting, then he jumped up like a jack in the box, going, oh my God, the view's amazing. He said, oh,
Right?
this is really okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Anyhow, absolutely loved it. We had a perfectly clear day.
Oh, good.
It
Yeah.
was spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. And it's one of the must-dos in London. It's not cheap, but it is worth every penny because the views are so amazing.
Wow.
And, that's one of those things that I just said, you absolutely have to do. And of course, and the first day, as I do when I go anywhere and it's somewhere new for me, I get onto a hop on, hop off bus
Yes.
because you really get kind of a layout of what the place is like. You get a little bit of the history. They were listening to everything, and with their heads going back and forth like crazy. And I was taking photos. So I was having a perfectly nice time. Um, but they were having just it was a really good introduction to the city. And well, again, well worth it. And what was really interesting is we got on, and I had been planning to buy the tickets in advance. We got on, and the guy came around to pick, for us to
Yeah.
pay. And we're chatting with him. And I said, yeah, don't you have any discounts? And he gave it to us for half price. And I don't know
Wow.
why he did that because normally it's about, I don't know, 30 or 40
Yeah.
pounds. And we ended up paying 21 pounds a piece,
Wow.
which is about $28. And we were on it for most of the day. We
Right.
got off,
Yeah.
we got back on, and it really was, and I think they have three different routes, and we went on all of them, and they really got an overall sense of the city, which was terrific.
Yeah, that is a good tip. I like that too. To do it at the beginning too, because you kind of get a good overview and maybe they point out something that you weren't thinking about going to, but now all of a sudden you're like, oh, that actually looks really interesting, or I do want to see that.
Right. The other thing is that as New York does, they have a half price ticket booth right
Hmm.
in the middle of Leicester Square, which is right smack in the middle of London. And we went. Actually, I sent them off. They went, and I said, whatever you pick, I'll go to. It's fine. We ended up seeing Mrs. Doubtfire, which
Oh,
was great
wow.
fun, which
Yes.
was perfect when you've got a kid.
Right.
She loved it. She absolutely loved it. And the tickets were, again, not insane because it was at the half price ticket, but then we actually had good seats.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So, you know, you just have to look around a little bit because London can be expensive. There's no question about it.
Right.
London can be expensive. But there's so many things that you can do with one gorgeous day. I said, look, let's just go for a walk in the park. The park is
Yes.
London has fabulous parks. And I said, and well, so we went, we did a little shopping first on Oxford Street, which is one of the big shopping streets. And then we walked, excuse me, walked into the park, walked across the park to Kensington Park Gardens, which is
Oh,
beautiful.
wow. Yeah, I haven't been to
And
that one.
oh, you have to. I think it's the prettiest of all parks. And everything was blooming because it was 2 weeks ago. So there were tulips out everywhere and
Oh,
daffodils. I mean, the place was just flooded in color. And
wow.
because it was a gorgeous day, everybody was out. Uh,
Yes.
and I was sitting there resting, and they all got involved because there were ducks, and one of the ducks got stuck in a
Oh,
clump of leaves. So they ended up getting a bobby, a policeman, to come over, and with his nightstick, he got the duck free. And we walked all the way through the park to the Albert Memorial, which is this beautiful, 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 um, ornate monument. It's huge,
wow. Yes.
absolutely huge. And so they got to see that. Oh, and they got to see the Peter Pan statue, and they got to see the memorial to Princess Di,
Oh,
all
it
of which is in
did. Oh, wow.
and it's all free. And you can walk around. Then we took a bus down to Harrods, and they got to see the Harrods Food Hall, which is well worth seeing. It's not what it used to be, but it's still pretty spectacular. Didn't buy anything there,
I
but
was
we
gonna
just
just ask if you bought anything, but
not a
sometimes it's
thing.
just beautiful to see how it's all displayed and just the
Absolutely.
elegance of that and the windows and just,
Yeah. And if you happen to be there at Christmas time, the decorations in that department store are amazing. They are
oh, I know,
genuinely beautiful.
stunning.
And the entire outside, if you go there kind of, as the lights come on, it's this beautiful old building and it's all outlined in lights. It's quite spectacular.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, London at Christmas time is truly worth going to see,
It
which I'll
is.
give you a hint for that one.
Yeah, I think it really is a great place. Plus the Charles Dickens, the whole Christmas Carol and a lot of the traditions we have in the United States came from London and England and
Absolutely. Yeah. But the thing that you must do if you're there at during the holidays, and I only found out about it recently, but I saw it, is oh God, what's the really big gardens there?
is it Kew? Kew
Kew.
Gardens? Yeah.
Yeah, Kew Gardens has a light show there that will knock your socks off.
Oh, wow.
It is beyond gorgeous, and it's huge. Um, and I thought, God, the New York Botanical Garden does one, but it's not even close to
Oh,
it.
yeah, exactly.
It's like, wait, New York, you got to catch up with Q.
Yeah.
Um, it was magnificent, really, really magnificent. But all the streets are lit up, and all the store windows are lit up, and it's just you know
It's
breathtaking.
magical, yeah. And I
Yeah,
did get that was my first trip to London was at the holidays and just riding the underground or the tube as they call it. And there were people in the underground areas like playing music and singing and there was just this jovial atmosphere which was wonderful because
yeah,
me not living in like New York City or a big city like that, we don't really experience that. People singing and being so jovial, I guess is the best word.
yeah. I mean, New York at the holidays is also really magical. Just about anywhere you go. And the thing that I love in New York during the holidays, which is not, the thing that everybody goes for, is on every street corner, I mean, or not every, but many, many, many street corners, there are vendors selling live Christmas trees.
Oh,
And
wow.
as you walk past, the smell of it is just fabulous.
Oh
It's
my
like the city
goodness.
smells fabulous.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how did you what would you say as far as helping people choose what area of London to stay in?
Well, the one thing I would suggest is make sure you're near an underground station, that you were in relatively short proximity to one,
Right,
because it almost doesn't matter where you are as long as you can get onto the underground.
right.
And I went for an area where I knew we could get out and there would be a lot of restaurants around, and we were across from a park so that if we just were exhausted, we could go into the park. Uh, but that was my main thing, was I wanted us to be very close to transportation,
Yeah.
buses, subways, whatever. Um, and that to me is the thing that you want to look for more than anything else. And then look around and see if there are restaurants and such, because there are times when after you've been touring the whole day, you're tired. And to
Yes,
go search
exactly.
for a restaurant and have to go somewhere to go to a restaurant is more than you want to do. And we could walk out the door and there were a dozen restaurants.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah. So that really was my main consideration. The
Yeah.
other thing is that if you're coming in, um, you if you're one or two people, you take the Paddington Express, which is the train that goes directly from Heathrow into the middle of London, and it takes like 20 minutes.
Oh, that's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not terribly expensive. However, with four people, it's cheaper to take a taxi.
Yes, I was
Plus,
wondering about that. Yeah.
and because there were four of us and we were coming into the city, you also get to see what the outskirts of the city look like. And you get to see neighborhoods. And the thing that I find hilarious is that London essentially doesn't have any highways. So that you're on the M4, which everybody goes, oh, yeah, the M4. And then it kind of ends and you're on city streets for
Yeah.
the last 10 miles or
Right.
5 miles. So you're going through the city. And I'm pointing things out because I know the city very well. My nephew's going, how do you know that was there? Well, because I've been here a lot and I've lived here.
Yeah.
But it was fun. We went within 3 blocks of where I lived,
Oh,
so it was
nice.
kind of fun. It was a kind of a different experience, but
Talk a little bit about the food. Are there certain foods that you would say are kind of must-dos in
oh yeah.
London?
Well, you have to have fish and chips,
Yes.
and I'll give you a great, yeah. And my absolute favorite fish and chip place is in the theater district, and it's called the Rock and Sole SOLE place, PLAICE, which are three different kinds of fish that are very
Oh,
common
yeah.
in England. So the Rock and Sole place, and it has, without question, the best fish and chips in London. And we kept trying different fish and chips at pubs, whatever. And my nephew agreed with me that it was the best of all of them. Um, so that's a must do. You absolutely have to do that. You also have to have in a pub, they have all different kinds of pies, savory pies.
Oh, right.
So they have, meat pies and cheese pies, and uh, that's a must do. After that, I'm sorry to say, British food is not fabulous. It's
Right.
gotten way better, but it's not great. So I would say those are the two you must have. But if you want to be very British, you go to an Indian restaurant, since the Brits, because it was a colony, have a gazillion Indian restaurants. Everything from, walk in, little tiny hole in the wall, cheap places to very, very elegant Indian restaurants, and everything in between at every conceivable price point.
Wow.
Uh, and that's a must do. Um, Apart from that, you can get almost any cuisine you want. Um, and I would say, apart from the fish and chips and the pies, you could avoid most British food.
Yeah.
And I say this with great affection for Britain. Their food is not good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, how they just, I don't know, it just didn't really evolve as as
And when I lived there, which was a long time ago, it was much worse, way worse. I'll tell you another place if you want a really fun British experience. My favorite museum in London is the Victoria and Albert, which is a museum of decorative arts.
oh nice.
And it's in an area called Kensington, which is a really nice area. They have cafes that are, they have three separate rooms with one kind of, you get up and you get your own food, but they are spectacularly beautiful.
Oh
And it's a
wow.
free museum. One is William Morris room. I forget what the other two are, but they are just the decorations in them are amazing.
Oh
Plus, they
interesting.
have a big courtyard outside, and on a nice day, you can sit in this spectacular courtyard and have your lunch there.
That
And
would
I
be
was there,
worth that. Yeah, to have
yeah,
a nice place to eat like that, something unique, a little different.
yeah, it is definitely different, and really, really beautiful, and the food's reasonable. I went there. I actually met a friend there while they were off. Went to the Tower of London, and I said, "You can go on your own. I've been there several times. Don't need to go again." And the one thing I remembered about it is there is absolutely nowhere in the entire place to sit.
No, there really isn't.
Nowhere. And I've got a bad back, so I just can't stand that much. But
Right.
but I said go because it's so great. They loved it. It's a really fun place to visit. Um, I said go by yourselves. I'm going to tell you how to get there. They had no problems getting there. And plus, of course, they I had to laugh. Their daughter is really good with GPS, so she
Oh,
became their navigator, which was great.
that's great. And her nav system worked in the city then, because
Oh yeah,
sometimes, depending where you're at, if the buildings kind of block the signal, then you can kind of,
no, she was absolutely fine, had no troubles.
oh,
They
good.
managed to, and they were, very proud of her because she was doing such a good job, and the two of them would have gotten completely lost. So, you know,
Right.
the 12-year-old was the navigator.
Yeah.
But anyway, I started to say, but I met my friend at the Victoria and Albert, and it was just such a beautiful, beautiful place, and the food was really good.
That's good to
I was
know.
surprised.
Yeah.
It used to be dreadful, but it was really good.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then I also know the river has boats, but part of the boats, aren't they part of the transit system as well?
some of them are, most are not.
Okay.
Most of them are tour boats, and they're not expensive. I mean, they're not terribly expensive. And when you get the hop on, hop off bus, you can do a little add on for very little money to also do a boat ride,
Oh,
which
nice.
is which is what we did, so
Yeah.
that you know, and they, they did part of it. I did the whole thing because it goes way, way, way down to
Yeah.
an area called Southampton, and I hadn't been there in ages. And I thought I just want to see. The city has been so built up. It's was kind of mind-boggling how
Oh,
much it's,
wow.
yeah. Um, Again, when I go, I normally stay in the central city just because that's where most of what I want to do and that's where my friends are. Um, but it was nice to go out and really, go pretty far, just to see what's out there. And it goes past Greenwich, as in Greenwich Mean Time, and you can see the observatory from the boat.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, it's kind of a fun trip.
Oh,
And
good.
again, not terribly expensive.
Right. And you stayed again in you said the Coventry
Covent
Gardens?
Covent Gardens.
Covent Gardens.
Covent. That's where the originally Covent Garden was a market, and
Oh,
it's
okay.
still set up as a market, and it's a pretty area. Now it's a big tourist attraction. It's also where the ballet is and the opera is. And there's a great museum there, the Transit Museum, that's really fun.
Oh,
that
interesting.
has everything from the very beginnings of London to current transportation and everything in between. And you can get onto some of them,
Oh,
and
neat.
they're full
Yeah.
size. At least it's huge. It's a very cool museum. It's really fun to go into it. So that's
Interesting.
another one. There's so many museums. I mean, you could, I've probably been in London, this is not an exaggeration, 30 times. And for the life of me, I know there's probably 20 museums I've never been to.
Oh, I know. It's full of museums and just walking around. I mean, they have plaques on some of the buildings that tell people like this happened here or this was where the I think it wasn't at the club where the Beatles performed. I mean, just everything everywhere.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could pick your theme and do a whole trip around whatever it is that interests you and not run out of things to do.
I
If you
know.
want music, there's every conceivable kind of music. If you're into history, there's more history in London than you can imagine. If you're into architecture, old or architecture modern, you could do a whole trip around that. I have a friend who is really into fabrics.
Oh,
She's a
interesting.
quilter and she's a weaver, and she spent, I think, 2 days at the Victoria and Albert,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
just looking at their fabric collection. And then she found another museum that was all different fabrics.
Oh my
So
goodness.
she was having a grand time, so it can be. And if you're into sports, they have, go to a cricket match. You want to see something really British? Go to a cricket match.
Oh, that's
And if you want to,
interesting.
yeah, crazy Britons, go to a football match, soccer, or a rugby match. I mean, and I have other friends who've traveled there just to go to Wimbledon.
Oh,
So,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much. I mean, that goes on
yeah,
there. You could easily, I
yeah,
just don't think that's what I love about London. You can go multiple times and have different experiences or theme it based on your personal interests.
yeah, exactly. And well, one of my friends always describes New York, and I love her comment, and it applies equally to London. If you're bored in New York, it's your own damn fault.
Right. Yeah, and I think that would hold true for London as well. I mean,
Absolutely.
if you're interested in shopping, I've heard there's all kinds of shopping and flea markets and
Oh yeah.
secondhand stores I'm sure to peruse through or books or
Oh, oh, the other thing is, and you know this about me, I love street art. I'm really into street art. There are two huge sections of London that are filled with street art.
oh
One of them is in
really?
the East End, and the other area is an area called Brixton. And every time I go, it looks totally different because it keeps evolving and people paint over things, and new buildings get painted. It's it better than go to a museum sometimes. And of course it's free. And there are free, oh, that's the other thing about London. There are free walking tours all over the city. If you look up free walking tours, you're going to find so many of them, it will make your head spin. And they literally are free. And as a courtesy at the end, you tip the guide.
Hmm.
They're wonderful. I've been on history ones, I've been on street art ones
Oh, cool.
that are, and they took me to places that I never knew about, all over London, and they were just fabulous. They have ones about food, they have ones about um, markets. There's, as you said, there's several huge flea markets.
Yes. Oh
Um,
yeah.
and you can go on a tour of flea markets with someone who really knows what they're doing, or architecture. Whatever you're interested in, look up, free walking tours, and there are hundreds of them.
That's a great piece of advice because that way too, if people are making travel plans, once you budget for the airfare, which airfares are dropping considerably right now. It's May, and they've been all over the map. I've seen great prices, and it's just been crazy ping ponging. So once you
Yeah,
kind of allocate that and choose your lodging, You can do so much in London on very little as far as activity costs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could spend an entire week and spend almost nothing. You can't go on the London Eye, you can't go to
Right.
the Tower of London. But, apart from a couple of things like that, you could spend an entire week being busy all the time, doing all different things, and spend next to nothing.
Yeah. Now, do they have like Uber and Lyft like we have in the
Oh, yeah.
States? Okay. And how does that
Yeah.
compare to taxis? Do you kind of, is there a difference or
Um, Uber tends to be a little cheaper than the taxis are.
okay.
There's no Lyft, but there is Uber. We used it a couple of times when we were going somewhere that was just, kind
Yeah,
of you'd have to change a few times.
right.
I just didn't feel like schlepping around. Um, and it was fine. And so we also took a taxi one time just so they could have the experience
Yes.
of being in a London taxi because they're very different than any taxi in the United States because the back is huge and they have two rows of seats that face each other.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
It's been so
And so
long, I can't remember if I've ever taken a British taxi. And they're all, if I recall, aren't they all the same? They all look the same. Aren't they all black or do they have?
they used to be all black. Now some of them they paint and some of them have advertising on them.
Oh, okay.
They used to be all black, but not anymore. But they're a very distinctive shape. And the distinctive shape, even the brand new ones, is because they have these two rows of seats.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So if you have a group or, a small,
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense sometimes to just do that if instead of trying to figure out, like you said, how to get from point A to point B.
Well, I mean, I could do it, but when you have to take two different trains and a bus, you know
Yeah,
what? We're just gonna opt and take an Uber
right.
or a
Exactly.
taxi. No,
Yeah. So was there
because there's
anything you packed or your members of your traveling group packed that they didn't need that, they thought
oh,
about?
please. I only travel with carry-on ever.
Oh, good.
I have not, I shouldn't say that. I was in Norway last December and I knew it was going to be bitter, bitter, bitter cold because we were going up to the Arctic Circle. And I also knew it was going to be icy, so I needed cleats and all kinds of other stuff. So then I did have a bigger suitcase, which I had to borrow because I didn't own one.
Oh, wow.
Um, I literally don't own one because if I can't do carry on, it doesn't come with me. That's my
Right.
motto. However, my nephew and his family, who are not experienced travelers, I looked at the luggage they had and went, "We're going for a week. How
Yeah,
much did you
exactly
bring?"
right.
And he said, "Well, I knew that we were going to be going to the theater, so I thought, we should have some nice clothes." I said, "No one cares. You could wear anything." And when they got there, it was obvious. They brought extra shoes, so they would have nice shoes to wear. It's like, no, 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 you don't need that. They had more cosmetics and more medication and more. I said, "You speak the language. There are pharmacies everywhere. If you need something, you can go buy it.
Right.
You don't need a full size of anything. How long does it take you to use this at home? You're
Right.
going for 1 week." So there was that. Then there was, well, I don't want to wear the same thing every day. I said, "I got to teach you about mixing and matching. You do not need different outfit for every day."
Right.
And my theory also is if you wear a pair of black slacks or a pair of jeans, no one notices.
Right.
And so
No,
you wear
exactly.
different tops, you put a scarf on, it looks completely different. No one cares.
Thank you.
Really.
Yeah, no, no, no one
They had
cares.
an out they had an outfit for every single day plus spares.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I looked at the amount of luggage they had, I almost passed out. I was like, what?
Oh, I bet too, because then when you get off the plane and you have to go collect it, and then you have to get schlepped to the hotel and then check it in, and yes. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
as I've gotten older, it's like I just want less to deal with. I just don't want to deal with all that. It's heavy, it's cumbersome.
yeah,
If you're switching in your case, it's on, stayed at the same place, but if you're moving hotels every couple of days, I
yeah.
don't want to have to like worry about losing stuff or collecting it, to heck with it.
Right. And then I also have my theory of, I bring, although at this point I don't have any to throw out anymore, but I bring old clothes with me and old underwear and I toss it,
Yes.
and if I'm going to stay somewhere for a week, I bring the detergent that's paper, that's
Yes.
sheets of detergent, and I wash clothes, and I bring stuff that dries really fast. And so I don't need to bring, underwear for every single night, for every
No.
single day there. And I don't need to bring socks for every single day I'm there. You just wash stuff, especially if you're in the same place.
Yes. Yeah. And that is the beauty, actually, if you do stay in the same place, is you can easily wash something in the sink
Yeah,
at night. I always take like a big Ziploc bag so I can take one of those sheets and fill it, soak my stuff, and then hang it up. You're gonna, you're not switching hotels, so there's no reason to worry about putting wet things in your suitcase and all that.
right. And even if it's a little bit damp, hair dryers are wonderful. You take a blow dryer and you dry it off, and that's the end of it.
And every place you stay, I've never not run into a place that did not have a hair dryer or one to
Great.
ask and borrow. So
Yeah, right. So, that solves that problem, even if you are moving around. But
great.
it's like, yeah. So they did say that next time they wouldn't be bringing quite so much.
Oh my goodness, it sounds like that everyone had a wonderful trip. Was
Oh
there
yeah,
something that that surprised them about the trip that they didn't expect?
I think just about everything,
Oh, good.
really. But the other thing that was funny, and I said to them, they wanted to bring back, gifts for, the people
Yes,
they work with,
souvenirs.
and I said, there's a grocery store at the corner. Go down there, go buy crunchy bars and flake bars, which you cannot get in the U.S. They're very British. They're candy bars. They'll cost you nothing. People will love them. It's a great souvenir. No one needs a magnet. No one needs, you know, I mean, they got a couple of magnets for themselves and for a couple of friends,
Right.
but they followed my advice. They bought bags of candy and people loved it. It was something they could eat, they could taste. That's not what they get at home. And it was a really, that was a great souvenir. And I know they would not have thought to do that.
Right. I think so too. When I travel too and bring back things for coworkers or friends or people around, I always try to find a food item. And, sometimes I do then have to quote check what was my carry-on on the way back, but
Right.
something to taste and eat is I've found a much more appreciated, enjoyable
Yes.
item than, something that, a magnet that's going to end up at the garage sale a few months from now or
Right.
things that
Because
take
it
up
means
space.
nothing to them.
Right,
It
it
means
doesn't.
nothing.
Right.
Whereas getting to taste, I brought back Finland and Iceland, both are big licorice countries.
Oh, wow.
And they have walls of licorice with different flavors and shapes and types. And I don't happen to like licorice, but I know a lot of people who do. So I always buy a bag of assorted licorice. People love it,
Yeah,
you
they
know.
do.
Um, Wherever I am, I'll buy a food thing, as you say. It's much more appreciated, or tea, or something that's
Yeah.
that's representative of the place that they probably wouldn't taste
Right,
here.
exactly. Right. Well, it sounds like a wonderful trip. Karen's got a couple books out now. If you want to tell everyone where to find your book and a
Yeah.
website.
Well, yeah. Well, my website is my name, KarenGershowitz.com, and you can see the two books there. Um, First one was Travel Mania. The second one is Wanderlust, and they are travel stories, and they're great fun. And I'm writing a third one now. I'm almost finished with it, and my editor is working on it. So there will be a third one, hopefully within a year.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And if anyone's listening and you're on Facebook, Karen regularly contributes to the Travel Collective Facebook page and she shares photos and tastes of all the places she's been going. So Thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate this.
Always a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to seeing you soon.